Hi, today on Catherine Learns Stuff, we're going to learn how to make a zombie pit for our Halloween decorations. So, let's jump in. I want my zombie pit to look old and weathered and uncared for. So I want it to be kind of like a grayish black or maybe a brown. So I've got a bunch of old paints and varnishes that I can use to paint my skid, as well as I've got some neon colors that I'm going to add later on for accents so that with my black light it should glow pretty nicely. And then I've also got some reds and pinks to add in to make it look like there's some blood spatter on the skid itself. So the first thing that we needed to do is to paint the skid. I found a free skid just down the street because someone was doing some gardening and they had some pallets dropped off. I tried painting the skid with like a light gray first, but the color didn't want to absorb very nicely, so I went with a darker gray color to make the skid look like an old entranceway. I wasn't too worried about painting the skid entirely and making sure every single nook and cranny was painted because we want it to look old and weathered, so not painting the whole thing perfectly gives it a bit more of that look. I wanted my zombie pit to stand up on an angle so that you could see it from the street. So what I did was I just made a box out of old 2x4s that I had and screwed it into place on the one long end so that I could have it standing up. And I also didn't want anything coming out of the sides of the skid, so I added in some side supports that also got painted. So I did a quick touch-up paint on anything that was showing and also on the sides and backing support. I even got my husband to help with some of the heavy lifting. So once I was happy with the paint job that I did, what I was hoping to do was to put a mesh on underneath, so that's going to stop any real visibility on the inside. So I just bought a simple gray mesh from the dollar store in the Halloween section that I could just staple into place. So I was able to quickly use my staple gun and staple that mesh into place on the back side of the skid. So now that I've got the mesh in place, I just wanted to add in some red paint on top of the skid, making it look like fingerprints or hand marks being dragged into the zombie pit. So I did like 4 or 5 finger marks on the skid, as well as just splash some red paint all over the top of the skid. I did this after I put the mesh on so that the red paint would also sort of hit the mesh behind it to make it look a little bit more real. And you don't see it in the video right now, but you do later. I did also squirt some fluorescent paint on top of the skid as well to let it glow a little bit more in the black light. I've kind of got the spot that I want on my front lawn to put it down, so it's on an angle and it's kind of on a little hill, so it gives it a little bit more depth. And you can see it better from the street. So what I need to do is apply some black mesh around the outsides that aren't totally covered and underneath the skid as well, so that you can't see the grass, to let it be dark inside there. So quickly, just with my staple gun and some old tent pegs, I'm going to staple that mesh on and peg it into the ground. So once I'm happy with the location of everything, I'm just going to pull out some old body parts that I've got from the dollar store. I've previously painted these a little bit more red and neon so that they glow better in the dark. So I've placed 2 hands inside the openings of the skid to make it look like the zombies are trying to escape, and I've got a creepy face inside. I've thrown some chains over top of it, and I've actually put in some lights inside. Finally, I connected my fog machine to the back of this. I used an aluminum pipe that I've got to keep the fog machine away from the actual skid itself because the fog machine gets really hot. And then I've got the smoke comes out to make it look creepy and eerie, and then with the lights and then the black lights, I'll show you in a minute, you've got some different options of how this can look. turned our black light on out front to shine the whole display up some more.
Let me out.
And there you have it. Your zombie pit's complete. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.